Hi, it's Pete Moore and welcome to PCM Guns. And I've been waiting for this for a very long time. This is my R8 Blaser. Don't worry, it's all here. And this is the 17 HMR rimfire conversion for the rifle. I tested the 2.2 rimfire version, I think it was last year, and the rifles look no different as we'll see. But what they do, they allow you to basically turn your centerfire into a rimfire, be it in 2.2 Magnum, 17 HMR or 2.2 long rifle. I first saw the Blaser conversion as it was then, way back when. And the gun I saw was basically just looked like a Blaser. It was an R93 I think back then they used. And the difference was they'd cut a slot into the side of the chamber, which is as such, and they put a magazine adapter for, I think it was a 4 or 5 round magazine stuck out at a slight angle like that. Very weird looking conversion, and I've seen them, I've handled them, I've never got a chance to shoot them. And then it always occurred to me that that really wasn't going to work because it looked a bit odd and it just seemed a bit odd. When they reintroduced or made more of the rimfire conversion, they completely rethought what they've done. You get replacement rimfire bolt, you get a drop-in rotary magazine insert that goes into the standard magazines, which you'll see. So the conversion is dead simple. Drop the barrel on like so, wind it in as you always do with the Blaser, remove the old bolt head, put in the new one, and rub it to your mother's brother. Simple as that. But I'm really excited because I do a lot of my small game with 17 HMR, so once I've got this rigged up and running, I'll be taking it out to see how the local rabbit population likes it. On top I've got a Blaser B2 scope, 2-12 by 50, which is not a bad spec for the scope. It's their second focal plane model rather than the B1, which is first focal plane. And so, let's look at a bit more detail what you do. So, first of all, you've got to get the old centerfire bolt out. I've always found the Blasers, nights in the R8, a little bit fiddly on bolt exchange, and it's something you learn. It's just that's the way it is. This here is the catch, and what you do, like a little screwdriver or something, there's a little shoulder there, flip that latch up, and then you can see here the bolt body is engaged. So what you've got to do is rotate it out of connection with the cocking handle. So you rotate it like so, so it's clear, then the whole thing comes free. See here, you leave the firing pin in place and also the spring, because that is not affected by anything, because obviously being a rim fire, then the actual firing pin on the conversion unit is higher up and out of the way. Now I found that putting it back is a little more fiddly. You see here that the bolt body, it slides. This slot here does the same job as this slot, which locks it in position. But what you've got to do, you've got to expand this so the catch is fully forward, otherwise it won't go in properly. So you open it up like that, you slide it in like so, making sure the spring's engaged. So it's a little bit stiff and fiddly. You push back, and then you rotate the bolt head so it engages. Then you ensure that this slot here is open, like so. Then you bring the lever down, you just drop it in, then pushing back it down at the same time. It's down. And now it's back in. One thing I will caution you, on my rifle sometimes there's a little tiny silver plunger here, doesn't come back in and it stops the bolt from closing. So I always make sure that is flush with the side rail. Next you have to remove the old magazine insert, which is easy. You squeeze the feed lips and it just pulls away. This one's for 270 Win. The new one is configured the same. It has a radial mag in here, which obviously loads through the top. So what you do, you offer it up, there's the same two lugs there, squeeze in there, both lugs engage, and that is the magazine insert in situ. The filling is a little bit fiddly, or it can be. What you have to do is get the first round, and you'll see one of the lobes of the rotor. You've got to put the head right forward and push down. Then it slips back. It is fiddly, I'll be honest with you. So the rim is just sitting on the edge of the platform, and you push down and it moves the rotor around one, and then after that you put a round in the middle as such, push in, push in, push in, and you get a capacity of 5, which is not amazing, but that's the way it is. And that's it loaded up. Okay, let's load up. One of the most exciting of bangs. It's quite small, but loaded mag. First in. As you can see, 0 kick, well, it is a 17 HMR, but the action's okay. Like I said, got to be a little bit firm in the action to make sure it shuts properly, but apart from that, very nice. As a Blaser owner anyway, I like the idea that I could, if I wished to, buy a rimfire barrel for my R8. I really do. Price is going to be high, because that's just the way it is. On the downside, I don't like the fact that you can't technically buy a spare magazine, because the magazine lives within the trigger group, and so if you wanted to get a spare magazine, you'd have to sort of take this out each time and put it back in, which makes no sense. The only way around it would be buy a spare trigger mech complete the magazine insert, which again doesn't make any sense. So if you're thinking of this in your Blaser owner, then you've got to say, okay, right, I'll live with a 5-round magazine in the rifle. Then I have to take it out each time I want to load it. Loading, first round in is a bit of a pain. You just got to fiddle with it. You get it right at the end. You can single load this, and there's 2 ways of doing it. One's not very clever, one is the best way. You can actually offer a round up and push it in physically into the breech area, which doesn't always work because it's not designed to do that. The best way is to literally just put on the empty mag, put the top round, just clip it into the feed lips, which are risen up here, and it just drops straight in, and it's presented properly and just shut the bolt. I did find that you need to be not aggressive with the bolt, but firm, because you get to a stage with it where you push it forward, and there's, just as this sort of enters, there's a mode of hesitation. I think it's a transition between the round fully leaving the feed lips and then jumping up into the breech face, and I think it's that. So what you want to do basically, when you get there, just give it a good firm push. It's not a big deal, but be aware of it, because you might think it's jammed, and you know, best advice, if a rifle actually doesn't shut properly and you have to force it, then the best advice is to open it up and check if it's okay. But it wasn't like that, and in use, you sort of soon get the idea you need to just be a little bit more aggressive with it, which is fine. So ejection was good. As you can see, accuracy was more than acceptable. On that point, I was going to test it with 3 loads. One of these 17 grain VMAX, which is the classic load that started it all. It's still a cracking load. It's the one that most people like. Winchester, they do what they call the HV, which is exactly the same load, but just made, whoever makes the ammunition for them, by them, 17 grain ballistic tip. And also Winchester's 20 grain hollow point, which as a load for the HMR, never really found massive favour. I tried it with my Bulk and my Ruger, and it shot okay, but it didn't really do what the 17 did, and in the end of the day I didn't bother with it. Now, as it happened, this was the 20 grain hollow point was a complete washout. It wouldn't chamber properly. What would happen is you'd run it forward, you get that resistance, and it felt a bit worse than it should have been. Then you'd pull the action open, and you'd find that the bullet had telescoped in the case and gone jammed in there. So obviously, when that round's presenting, because it's probably a little bit shorter, being a hollow point and having no ballistic tip to help feed, and also being wider diameter than a pointed bullet, it's probably catching on the side of the chamber face. If you're thinking of getting one of these and you want to get a 20 grain bullet, a 20 grain load, I wouldn't bother, stick with a 17. Okay, now the figures. First of all, Hornaday 17 grain VMAX. High was 2,559 feet per second, low was 2,445, average was 2,507, SD was 44.6, which in real terms is just under 90 feet per second difference, which is quite a lot for a round that's doing about 2,500. The quote from Hornaday here is 2,550. Now, the average there is about what you'd expect. Group was a very impressive 0.505, and energy was 238 foot-pounds, which is pretty good from that point of view. So no problem with headshots, and my Ruger 7717 all weather can push out to 200 yards for headshots on a good day from a supported position. So the round doesn't have an issue going all that way out. Winchester Varmint high velocity 17 grain again, ballistic tip. High 2,336, low 2,303, average 2,314, with a standard deviation of 19, which is just sub 40 feet per second, which is much better than Hornaday. But given that Winchester also quote a speed of 2,550 for it, it is very, very low. Group was 0.805, again, pretty good. And energy obviously was lower at 2,002 foot-pounds. But there's a lot there even to carry out to 200. The only anomaly again, which is about 17, the last few months I've been testing some 17 from Hornaday and Remington. And in my Ruger, which is a 20-inch barrel, same as this, it's doing 2,680, and the Remington maybe 2,685, 89, that sort of thing. But the truth is, it's nearly 150 feet per second faster than quoted. Now, I'm not complaining, the cases don't split, you get more energy, flatter trajectory, so what's not to like? But the odd thing was, this rifle went back to what the factory, pretty much what the factory said. And it just goes to show different barrels, different ammunition, how things change or don't change. But yeah, overall, if you like the idea, then and you're a Blaser owner and you like the idea, then go for it, because what you do have is the beauty of the commonality of one chassis, one trigger pull, one sight scope system. Everything's the same apart from the hole in the end and what comes out of it. But it's up to you. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that, as ever I did. If you did, tell your friends, support the channel. If you want to speak to me, it's pmore.shootingsport@gmail.com as ever. And shoot straight, be safe, and I'll see you again soon.